Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Connie Kohlmeyer, an educator with the Conservation Foundation. And this is Dixie. For those of you who are maybe not as familiar with the Conservation Foundation or are just getting to know us, we are a nonprofit organization. We are proud to be accredited by the Land Trust Accreditation Commission. And our mission is to improve the health of our communities by preserving and restoring natural areas and open spaces, and then also protecting our rivers and watersheds and promoting stewardship of our environment. This work is very important in preserving our quality of life. Open spaces improve our air quality and preserve habitat for all kinds of wildlife. And it also creates opportunities for people to enjoy the outdoors like we'll be talking about today. We'd like to thank Bedrock Earthscapes and Itasca Bank and Trust for sponsoring this webinar. Sponsors help us to keep these webinars free for everyone. So if you're interested in sponsoring, I will post our contact information. Please feel free to reach out. We would love to chat with you, and we definitely appreciate our sponsors. I will also post our sponsors' website links in the chat and also on YouTube with the recording. You who are joining us today can also help us to keep these webinars free. If you enjoy the webinars, we encourage you to please donate to the Conservation Foundation to help us continue to do all the wonderful things we do, including, but not limited to, our webinars. When you become a member, also, you get all kinds of different member perks and members only offerings. You can also sign up for our emails and follow us on social media just to keep up with what we're doing, because we have a lot going on in the community all the time. So you can keep up with our events and happenings and join us for all kinds of fun activities. So speaking of events and happenings and fun activities, first of all, we want to say a very big thank you. We had a very successful Earth Day benefit this year, and we had a fantastic plant sale. So thank you for everyone who joined us, either ordered online. We had some really cool native plant kits and vegetable and herb kits, some fun Mother's Day gifts, and we had a lot of plants, vegetables and herbs and native plants that were that are now out in the community and being planted in people's yards and community gardens. So we're very excited about that. Thank you to everyone who came out. It was a little rainy and wet, and everybody was still, plant people are fun. It was very, everyone was still in a good mood and having fun plant shopping. So we enjoyed being with everyone and sharing that. And it was really fun to be back in person again and see everybody out at the farm. Since this is such a busy time of year and there's so many fun things going on, I do want to mention a couple of our upcoming things. Like our Nature on the Farm camp registrations. We have a few spots still open, and we also have some really fun new events like Music on the Farm coming up. The first one is going to be on Sunday, June 11th. It's at the Conservation Foundation's McDonald Farm in South Naperville. Green Earth Harvest, our organic farm, is hosting. We're going to have live music. It's a free event to come out. Just bring your lawn chair. We're going to have live music from downtown Charlie Brown, so you can enjoy some blues, jazz, R&B, and also go ahead and grab a bite to eat at our the food truck. We're going to have a visit from Rogue Curbside Kitchen. They're bringing their food truck out, so we'll have some good snacks while we're listening to our music. That's at 4 p.m. on Sunday, June 11th. For today's webinar, we're going to be talking with Jenny Flowers of the DuPage Children's Museum about some fun and educational outdoor activities to do with kids just in time for summer. So we've got Memorial Day weekend coming up, kind of kicking off the summer. School's going to be out, and we're very excited to get some ideas for some fun ways to keep them entertained and get out in nature where the adults can have fun and the kids can have fun out in nature and learn a few things. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenny, and she's got a lot of really fun stuff to share with us. So thank you, Jenny.
Yes, thank you, Connie. I appreciate the introduction and the invitation to join you all today for what I'm hoping is going to be a fun webinar. So, as Connie mentioned, I am Jenny Flowers from the DuPage Children's Museum. I'm the Senior Manager for Student Learning and Community Engagement. So if you think about kiddos, sort of kindergarten all the way up through 6th, 7th grade, I get to work with those kids and those educators, bringing some joyful STEAM learning opportunities to their classrooms and to their out-of-school time programs. And I'm very excited to be here today because I love talking about playful learning, and playing outside. And what a great time of year to be able to do that. So as we get started, I want to put us in a little bit of a playful mindset. And I'm wondering if folks wouldn't mind just sharing or thinking about sort of, how are you feeling today? Feel free to let me know if you're coming to this webinar with the lens of an educator or a parent, caregiver, and then which one of these playful learning kiddos are you sort of most feeling like? And Connie, if you wouldn't mind sort of managing the chat if I miss anybody. And I don't know how you all are feeling, but I feel like I'm feeling, I don't know, maybe like a little bit like the kiddo in number 4, thinking about sort of, I'm excited, feeling optimistic about summer, and also feeling a little messy.
Ooh, okay, I'm going to look at my settings here because we did get a message in the Q&A that the chat is disabled, and it's only supposed to be set so that everyone should still be able to enter into the chat, but only we see it. So let me take a look at the settings. I'll try to take care of that here in just a second for you.
That sounds great. No problem. So in the meantime, yeah, folks, just sort of think about sort of what lens you're bringing to this webinar today. Kind of joyful learning are you feeling like? That might help put us in a little bit of a playful spirit. So as we think about that today, just a sense as to what we're going to be up to today. So we are going to think for a minute about playful learning, what that means, what that looks like, especially in your context. And then we're going to engage in a couple of activities or strategies to bring play outside. And then we'll have some time at the end to sort of connect it all together as we wrap up. And I'm happy to share some of the resources that I talk about today. Oh, looks like Connie's got the chat up and running, so hopefully that works for folks. I really like to think about sort of learning objectives with any webinar we do, and so I'm hoping that at the end of this, you feel like you've had some time to think about the critical importance of outdoor play, especially in child development. And this can be, you know, from really early learners to maybe you work with middle school, high school students. So thinking about sort of what kids are needing and how outdoor spaces can really help foster those developmental skills. We're also going to give you a chance to engage in a couple of activities that support outdoor STEAM-based play. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have some time to reflect on the ideas and share thoughts, ways that you might want to adapt or extend these activities for children in your life. So that is where we're headed today. So let's get started. I'd like for you all to just think for a minute about play. And what does play look like? What might it feel like? What does it sound like? Think about how children play, and also how do you play? So maybe think of that for a minute. If anyone is comfortable and has access to sharing their thoughts in the chat, please pop those in there. You can also use the Q&A if that's easier. Just curious, sort of from your perspective, what does play look like, feel like, and sound like? Hopefully you have some ideas in your mind about what play looks like and feels like and sounds like. I can speak from the Children's Museum. Play is often really loud, which is great. It feels very fun. It looks like laughter I hear. I love that. So you can actually hear the sounds of play through laughter. Yep, absolutely. I think about, I watch my 2 children play often and how they interact with each other, and it's very imaginative, creating all sorts of worlds. And then when I was thinking about sort of how do I play, that was a little hard for me. I feel like maybe I don't always play like I should. But I think it's critical for kids of all ages, including adults, to find moments to play, whether that's with kiddos in your life or finding time just to play and be silly and be creative in your own right. Yeah, kids often pretend and mimic what they've seen. Yeah, I love that. And that's a really great segue into play is learning, right? children are absorbing everything around them, and often that translates into playful learning. So they're mimicking, they're using their imagination. Again, it can be loud, it can be quiet, it can be collaborative. And as an educator at DuPage Children's Museum, we really take play seriously, and we really think about play as being super, super connected to learning. That is really where the learning happens. And through play, children are exercising their curiosity, they are joyful, they're learning how to engage in the world, so they're learning about themselves and their place in the world. They're getting an opportunity to exercise choice and agency. Play often brings about all sorts of opportunities to problem solve. I think the comment about pretending and mimicking, often that means there's some collaborative play happening. So children are navigating situations and problem solving. And through that, ideally, they're collaborating, learning from one another, and creating a really rich, playful learning opportunity. I mentioned that at DuPage Children's Museum, we take play really seriously, and that is so true. I pulled out this quote from Fred Rogers. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is serious learning. So I think this really embodies the spirit of our museum. And as we think about playful learning, it really is the work of childhood. I also included a couple of images of kiddos interacting with our museum and many of our spaces and in our programming. We are based in STEAM content, so all of our learning experiences really do try to highlight that intersection between science, technology, engineering, art, and math. But through that, it's really child-led discovery. And so it's the student taking that agency, that choice, and becoming sort of curious, fostering that lifelong learning through STEM opportunities. With that, it's very open-ended, and we'll talk about that a little bit with the activities we'll do today. And we really focus on the practices of play. So it's making observations, it's asking questions, it's really thinking about sort of what are those practices that scientists and artists and engineers engage in, and how do we create that so it's a really playful opportunity for students to explore those practices as well. So that's how we think about play at DuPage Children's. And now I'm curious, let's think about play outside. So if you could think for a minute, what might be some of the ways that children play outside, and what might be some of the benefits that children experience as they bring playful learning to an outdoor world? So think for a minute. If you have ideas, feel free to put them into the chat. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about why is it important to get kids outside and have them engage in some playful learning. Hopefully you have some ideas. Maybe you've had some experiences playing outside with your kids or children in your life, or as adults. Again, how do we foster some playful learning in adults? And as we think about that, there's great research to show that learning outside, bringing that playful learning outside, has all sorts of cognitive benefits. Children are able to develop their senses, they increase motor control. Playful learning outside is a fantastic way to spark curiosity, make them wonder about the world around them, and again, their place in it. And playing outside supports fostering some of those key practices that I mentioned, like asking questions and making observations. And so there are some really incredible cognitive benefits to playing outside. But there's also lots of social emotional benefits too. Being outside and playing outside, research shows that it really reduces stress. It can improve your mood when you play outside. You get some vitamin D, absolutely. You build some respect for the natural world. So building those connections between yourself and the world around you, creating some agency and ownership. You can do some risks outside. I think about some of the outside play areas where children are scampering all over the place and really not only exercising their motor control, but taking some risks and solving lots of problems, not only about the big world around them, but again, on a smaller scale, as students are playing outside, solving problems together. Oh, and there's some great ideas coming through in the chat. Loving outdoor arts, gathering things from outside and creating something new. Yes, we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. And another comment about sensory exploration. Absolutely. Playing outside really engages all the senses, and children are really able to connect with those senses in lots of different ways. This is great. So we've talked about playing, the importance of play. We've talked about playing outside and some of the amazing benefits that happens when people are encouraged to play outside. So now we're going to dive into some of the ways to bring the outside, playful learning outside. So one of the things that I'd like to just talk about for a minute is nature collections. So I am not sure about you all, but I can count numerous times that my kiddos have come home with rocks and leaves in their pockets, and then they end up in the laundry, and then they come to me and say, like, but that was my collection. So there's something really special about children being outside and collecting things. So I'd like for you to just think for a minute about the kinds of things that children like to collect from outside, and maybe why. Why are they doing that? And why might nature collections be important for child development? So think about that for a second. I love this image that's on the screen where it's a nature collection in an egg crate, just an egg box. It's a really nice way for kids to collect things as they're outside and store them in a great space. But think about sort of, yeah, why might kids like to collect, and what are some of the things? So you've got some ideas coming through: acorns, pebbles, little sticks, feathers, pine cones. Yes, yes, definitely. Children can collect all those little things, absolutely. And very different types of things, different textures. Bugs, yes, some kiddos like to collect bugs, absolutely. Really bringing playful learning outside and maybe bringing those bugs inside, absolutely. And thinking about sort of the why might they like to collect? I think there's something about children feeling that sense of agency. They are observing the world and collecting things that really resonate with them. So I think those examples that we just shared are really great ones. And there's great research to show too that creating a nature collection is a fantastic way to integrate some early math and science learning. I love the egg carton because it's a great way for children to sort their collections. So thinking about by texture or color or perhaps where it's found. So there's a lot of great sorting that can come through with a nature collection. Again, making some great observations. They really have to get close and observe the world in order to figure out what they want to collect, using their senses, asking questions. I've definitely had kids that I've worked with collect things and like, what is this strange thing that was underneath the tree? Great opportunity to ask them questions and then figure out how you can investigate and answer those questions. And again, a nature collection is a great way for children to feel really connected to the natural world. This is their special collection, things that they found, and it helps deepen a little bit of that empathy and that connection to the world around them. And so thinking how you can use nature collections to support playful learning, the egg crate idea is one idea where you can provide that for children and have them go and collect things. And then maybe there are some ways that they are asked to sort or share the things they collected. You can utilize nature collections in a couple of different ways. And we're going to actually engage in one of those just now. So one of the strategies I really love to do when thinking about bringing play outside is observational drawing. And this is a really great strategy that I've used with educators in lots of different contexts. And one of the things I love about it is it's really flexible. And so it just requires a writing utensil, something to write on. You can use colored pencils or markers, but just a pencil is fine. And then ideally something that has been collected from nature to draw. When I think about doing observational drawing with students, I really try to highlight the ABCDEs of observational drawing. Cal Academy has some great resources, and I'm happy to share those after in this presentation. But thinking about observational drawing, and that's a little bit different from just a free creative drawing, is that observational drawing should be accurate. It should be big, colorful, detailed, and explained. The reasons why is because observational drawing is really about sitting and making observations and crystallizing those observations sort of through a drawing. And so keeping it so it's detailed, explain something, and ideally lead to some more questions is a great way to frame creating an observational drawing. So we're going to give everybody an opportunity you're going to do some drawing. So if you are able, grab a piece of paper, grab a pencil or a writing utensil. I'm going to provide an image of something for you to draw. But if you have something around you that you would like to draw, please feel free. It can be something from the natural world. It could also just be, maybe you're drinking a cup of tea right now. So it could be your tea mug. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to give everyone some time to do this. Here is the image that I selected. It is something from the natural world. So I'm going to ask everyone, we're going to take about 5 minutes to just draw the object. And again, remember those A, B, C, D, E's, to make some observations and then draw the object, and feel free to add lots of detail. So you can add numbers, words, you can add color if you'd like. And again, since this is a scientific endeavor and not as much of an art endeavor, it's okay if it's not perfect, because this is about the process of making observations and not the final product. So it's really about how you're seeing this object and what observations you're making. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and give everyone some time to do this. I'm happy to share my final project with you all. So I'm going to start this little timer here in the corner. Okay, start drawing. When I do this with children outside, you can bring clipboards. There's a nice surface for them to use. You can create clipboards by using some cardboard and a rubber band, or you can just use a flat surface inside. I often like to play some music too, so you have some calming music happening, which can often help kids focus, but it's just a way for them to slow down, draw, and make some observations of something that they're curious about. There's a comment in the chat that this is fun. I can't remember the last time I actually tried to draw something. I agree. I think there's something really soothing about just sitting and making some observations and just drawing for a minute, especially when you feel like it doesn't have to be perfect and it's just about the process of making observations. I think that's a little freeing. At least that works for me as someone who, I wouldn't say, I feel like I'm definitely a science person and not as much of an art person. So that feels sort of nice. I don't know about you all, if anyone else is drawing this specimen on our screen, but I have all sorts of questions that I'm coming up with, and I'm very glad that I'm partnering with the Conservation Foundation, because you might be able to help me answer some of these questions about this object. Okay, folks, about 2 minutes left. And again, we have, this is just a little teaser. So if I were to do this with students, I would definitely give ample time, maybe provide a little check-in, a time for them to share sort of what they're noticing with one another, and then they can continue. Maybe pick a new thing to draw. Okay, about 1 minute left. Okay, put the finishing touches on your observational or scientific drawing. Add maybe one more label or number. Okay, great job, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share. Hopefully you can see it. This is my scientific or observational drawing. I tried to make it accurate and big. I did not grab any colored pencils, so it's not colorful yet, but hopefully it's detailed and I'm explaining some things. I mentioned that one of the great things about this process is it leads to a lot of really close observations. There are some things about this leaf that I noticed that I don't know if I would have noticed it just glancing at it. Which leads to some questions. I'm curious about what this little like hole is towards the bottom. I'm very curious about the different colors. I think these are acorns, but I'm not 100% sure. So that makes me curious about what kind of leaf this is and what tree maybe it came from, leading me to all sorts of questions that now I'm very inspired to go out and try to find the answers to. So this is a really easy strategy. It's a super great way to focus kids outside, again, getting them to slow down and just think about what they're observing, and ideally leading to some new questions they might want to investigate. So congratulations, everyone, on making a scientific drawing. I want us to just think about sort of some of those learning outcomes of this strategy, and I included a couple of observational drawings from some students. So the first one is from a 6-year-old. They were studying animals. I think this is some sort of like a big cat, maybe in a jungle. And I love this because the student not only drew the animal, but also started to think about the environment in which that animal lives. And so that connection, which I thought was really interesting. And then the other image is from a pre-K student, a 3-year-old, who was studying a unit on spiders. And I love this because when you think about 3-year-olds, maybe you don't think about scientific drawing, but obviously this is such a great skill for really early learners to use. It's practicing those fine motor skills and communicating something that they're understanding. So you can see the spider, you can count some legs that they are seeing. I love that there's multiple spiders. They have smiley faces. It's also kind of a nice way, again, for children to connect to the outside world. So maybe building some fondness for spiders where in other cases maybe they would be scared of them. And so I just wanted to highlight that this strategy is a fantastic strategy really for kids of all ages. Again, it's about really honing those fine motor skills. Children, as you know, really just holding a pencil and making scribbles is such great practice, just the power of doodling and using that throughout a kid's life, gives them some confidence in being able to communicate through drawing. I really love this because I think it also helps illuminate and communicate some understandings. So again, this pre-K student might not be able to verbally communicate everything, but through drawing, there's like a little bit of a window into what they're thinking. And it does allow them to think with a pencil. So they're putting their brain on paper. That's really a nice way to really understand where a student is at. Again, it also helps to crystallize observations. I definitely felt that when I was drawing the leaf, because I was noticing things and kind of cementing those a little bit more, and which is leading to some more questions. And again, I think this idea of connecting words to ideas. So I have a way to kind of contextualize a word like acorn. For this 6-year-old student, they're contextualizing where the tail is in relation to the head and the fur and the ears. So they're starting to think about traits. So observational drawing, again, is a really fantastic, easy strategy to use in any outdoor setting. It's a great way to really connect what is happening outside to what's going on in the child's brain, and providing some really great learning opportunities that come along with it. So hopefully you all enjoyed that and got a sense of some scientific drawing. The next strategy I'm excited to talk about is loose parts play. Loose parts is a huge part of what we think about and do at the DuPage Children's Museum. So I'd love for you all to just think for a minute about loose parts play and maybe what that means to you. What might some examples of loose parts play be? And again, why is it important for children to engage with loose parts, and how might we support loose parts play in an outdoor context? So maybe think about that for a minute. If you have ideas, put them in the chat. I did provide a couple of images just to get you thinking a little bit. This book, Loose Parts, Inspiring Play in Young Children, is an absolute go-to for us at the Children's Museum. It is a really great way to think about loose parts in lots of different ways, and then how to utilize them. I think this is a part of a 4-part series, so if you really want to take a deep dive, this is a great series of books. And when I think about loose parts play, I laugh because so often the best present for a birthday is cardboard box the toy comes in. It's not even the toy, it's about the box and what that box then becomes. So that for me is sort of the way that I think about loose parts. It's really about a material, whether that's natural or human constructed, that is used with no real purpose in mind. So yes, it's a cardboard box that can be used to store things, but if it becomes a loose part, it can be a castle, it can be a reading nook, it can be really whatever that child is imagining it to be. There's a great comment in the chat. Loose part lets kids be creative and figure out their own uses for different parts. And I love that. It really is sort of, so often we place intention on something, and by kind of removing those barriers, children are encouraged to think about the things around them in such different and creative ways. I really appreciate that that sort of, it just feels really open-ended. And it's a great way for something that might have one use to then have 20 uses, depending on how children are interacting with it. Again, loose parts is really a key element in early learning spaces. So you'll often find loose parts at the Children's Museum. Examples of that in our water area, we have all sorts of different manipulatives that can be a boat. It could just be something that floats down and becomes part of an experiment. It's a way for children to sort of engage with different materials in lots of different types of ways. Yeah, so I think loose parts is really an exciting way to also think about those nature collections. I think one of the images sort of lends itself to that. In the corner here, there's lots of natural items that you can think about using in loose parts play with children. So that nature collection can be used in an observational drawing, but also, hey, what if we just open this up and just encourage some creative play, which is what I'm going to have you all do next. So for this exercise, we're going to think about using loose parts that you might find outside, but with a little bit of a focus. So we're going to challenge you all to think about loose parts in the context of a self-portrait. Again, this is like pretty minimal materials, nature collections or just stuff from outside. Optional, you can have paper, glue, markers, paint, whatever those sort of art materials are. But really this activity is about encouraging children to use loose parts in a really creative way where they can express themselves, which as a STEAM-based institution, I'm always looking for those opportunities for that creative connection. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for just a moment, and I'm going to open up a link to a Jamboard. And so for those of you who have, I feel like in this digital age, we have gotten very good at using Jamboards. I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the chat. Connie, let me know. Hopefully everyone has access to that link. If not, I can reshare it. And so if folks are able to open that up, so if you're able to open up the Jamboard, it allows you can just make a copy of it. I was trying to figure out a virtual way to think about loose parts play. And so this Jamboard is kind of my attempt at that. Oh, I think we might need to I might not only be able to share the link with everybody. Connie, if you don't mind helping with that.
No problem. Yeah, it looked like it was posted for everyone, but I will copy it and paste it again to make sure that it goes to everyone. Sorry about
Awesome.
that. Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I am sharing my screen so at least you can see what it looks like. And so the challenge is to create a self-portrait using the loose parts below. So I was thinking about things that children are likely to collect in their nature collections, things like rocks, maybe some string, some grass. I feel like my children are always finding pennies on the ground and buttons and things like that. So I also included some of those items. And so if you have your Jamboard up and working, you can go ahead and just manipulate the different materials and think about how you could use these loose parts to create a self-portrait. Another little tip for Jamboard, if you right click, you can duplicate something. If you want to change the order, you can order it so you can bring something forward or backwards, however you want to make it work. So hopefully everyone has access to this. So maybe take a minute and play around and create a self-portrait using these materials. I'm obviously going to gravitate towards the flowers since my last name is Flowers, very convenient for a partnership with the Conservation Foundation. So I'm going to give myself 2 button eyes. And you can think about sort of other materials other loose parts that you might want to introduce to an activity like this. Again, I really like to encourage students to collect objects and use them for different purposes. I think self-portraits is a really nice way to do that. I have also used loose parts sort of found outside to think about animal shelter. So creating, how do you use loose parts to maybe create a shelter for a bird or another favorite animal? So there's, a couple different ways to think about bringing together some loose parts from the outside world. I'm going to give myself some arms here. There we go. Looks like some folks in the chat are having some fun with this, which I like. Maybe I'm fancy today, so I'm wearing a little bow tie. Yeah. Again, super easy, a really nice way for children to express some creativity, thinking about loose parts, materials found in the natural world in kind of a different way. I think it's, I think it's just a really fun way to think about sort of how to communicate how you're feeling and maybe parts of your identity that you want to share. So there's lots of different social emotional learning components that sort of come with this too, which I think always a benefit when you can tie together those. Let's see if I can try to create little feet, but we'll see if this works. Yeah, so maybe take about another minute. I feel like I could probably do this all day, similar to drawing. It's nice to just be a little silly and play ourselves. Maybe take just another minute. This Jamboard will be available though, and I'm happy to reshare it as an additional resource for folks if they want to keep playing with it. All right, I think that might be my self-portrait. Got 2 button eyes, flower face. Again, Jenny Flowers feels appropriate. I've got some arms because I'm very curious about feeling and understanding the world around me. Bow tie, little fancy Friday. And I have quartz feet. I don't really know why. It just seemed an appropriate shape. Maybe I'm very sturdy. Maybe that's why. So thanks for indulging me on that. I'm going to pop back into our presentation. Hopefully you all can see that. Again, just a really easy way to think about loose parts play, but bringing in that natural collection and supporting students with some creativity. So those are just a couple of ideas and thinking about bringing the natural world and play really together. If folks have questions, thoughts, takeaways, I'd love to hear those. I'm curious if any of the strategies resonated with you and you're interested in maybe using these in the children in your life. And if so, what are some of the ways that you're thinking about adapting or building upon these ideas? What I always love about opportunities like this is I get to learn as well, and on other ways that I could do these strategies with students or even with my kiddos. Oh, thanks. There's a nice comment about loving the interactive components of the webinar. Thank you. And thank you. I feel like this only works if people participate. So thanks for that. Hopefully it was a nice opportunity for you to play, relieve some of your stress from a busy day and a busy week. The power of play again, speaks to everybody.
This is so fun, Jenny. I was having a great time. I'm gonna actually, I'll show you. I was following along too and participating.
Oh, good. Can I see?
I was one of those. Yeah, I was one of those. I was like, this is so fun. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this was my, or maybe after, like if we can see bigger, I don't know. I did my leaf drawing, and then yeah, also like so much of what you were saying made a lot of sense. So my son went to a preschool where they got to spend some time outside. And every day he would come home with a collection of things in his pockets. And I actually still have a jar. He's 24. I still have a jar of some of the things he collected in his pockets during preschool. So yeah, I would empty out the pockets before doing the laundry. And I would find all kinds of things every day that he collected outside. So that one, I love the idea too with the egg cartons. I think it's so cool because not only is it, like they can collect in a bag or a brown paper bag or something like that, but to have the little compartments to be able to sort things out and kind of, arrange by shape or size, or just, I have all these different kinds of rocks, or this one is smooth and this one is bumpy, or, it just gives them that space to kind of organize their collection, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these things were so fun.
I love that.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say that, I love scientific observational drawing with students, but I really do use it with my children all the time. It's so nice. Just when I'm like, okay, we're going to go for a hike, but I'm going to make sure I've got like a notebook in my pocket and some colored pencils. And if we just need a moment, we're going to sit and just be in nature and just make some observations. And it's just a really nice way, I think, to connect. And obviously all those great learning benefits comes with it, but it's also sometimes just a nice strategy to have in your back pocket as a parent.
Yeah, I think the other thing I really liked about that too was we do an activity with kids, a Build-A-Beast activity with clay, and they can kind of create their own animal as we're learning about all different kinds of things, animal adaptations, and all the different parts and things that make them able to live in their environment and their habitat. And it would be really cool to have them actually do an observational drawing of an actual animal first to kind of start thinking through all of those things. And I really liked how they had that labeled. Those were really cute. That would be a nice lead-in activity before we do the Build-A-Beast activity with the clay where they create their own. So that was cool too. Yeah, and then also the self-portrait too. That was fun.
Yeah.
we've actually, we did an activity. I like the self-portrait. We didn't do a self-portrait necessarily, but collecting some materials from nature and then just creating a picture out of it, instead of painting or drawing, but using those pieces and kind of like the loose parts, like to be able to, you decide what this is. Maybe it's a flower, but maybe it's an arm,
Right.
So it's kind of combining those two things. And that was really fun to glue things down on paper. It was so simple, didn't use a lot of materials or anything. It wasn't messy. It was like a glue stick and some leaves and things that they picked up, and they were able to get really creative and make some cool pictures and images. One little fluffy thing might look like a seed, or it might be hair for something, or fur of an animal or whatever. So it was a really fun activity. So I think that was another cool thing too. I like the twist on it to make it a self-portrait, that was fun.
I have to look
That
inwards
really
a little bit.
Yeah.
In our art studio at the museum, we're all about loose parts kind of everywhere, but our art studio does a really nice job of just having kind of, it's just like a little bin that's got a couple different components to it, and there's just random loose parts in there, and it's incredible the way that children sort of see something like even just like a screw or a pom-pom or some googly eyes and just repurpose those in different ways. And so, I think just like having stuff like that on hand and like letting the creativity flow is it's really just, I don't know, inspiring. It's inspiring to see how creative children can be in thinking about the world.
Yeah, definitely. I think, even something like a package of Legos or, different types of toys like that, it gives them the opportunity to create things, but sometimes, which is a different focus, not that, it's not good or bad or right or wrong one way or the other, but a lot of times they're trying to make something specific, something that they saw on the box or something that, and they know which parts of Legos do different things or different shapes. So to give them something that gives that same creative, like building and coming up with the ideas, but with no predetermined outcome is, I think, is really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to kind of exercise both parts of the brain, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you don't have, like the wheels that come in the Lego kit, like what could you use? Maybe tree cookies can become the wheels, and it's just then they have to kind of come up with something on their own. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's all
that's great.
fun to see what they come up with too. Like
yeah, I'm always like, whoa, this was beyond my wildest expectations.
Yeah, things I never would have even thought of.
Definitely, which is so fun. I love that.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so let's see. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but I've been having a little bit of trouble here with the chat today. So I've been trying to pass along messages. If you want to, you've got, this is great. We've got resources.
Yes, and I'm happy to share this with anybody. So I pulled just some really great articles, sort of about outdoor learning and the importance of it, and some research about loose parts. And then I mentioned that there are some places that I always look to for strategy resources. So I added those. And then as a plug, we have a really fun Mess Fest coming up in the middle of June. It's outside, messy galore. So I thought I'd put that out there in case folks are interested in coming to the museum to get messy and play outside.
That is so cool. That's like one of my favorite things when we do camps and after school programs and all the kids activities in our, Mess Fest is a great name. It's a great name. Messy. One of the things that I love in our backyard garden area where the kids spend time is our soil station, because it's kind of the idea of, instead of telling the kids all the time, like, don't get dirty, don't play in the dirt, don't play in the soil. Like, we're telling them, go, there's a big pile of soil, start digging. And again, it's like free play, and it's okay if they get messy. So I love that Mess Fest. That's really cool.
Just embrace it. Last year, we actually had kind of you can hose off your child before getting back into the car station.
Perfect. That's good. I was picking that through.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
That's important. Cool. We have a couple minutes left. If anybody does have any questions, we can probably take one or two questions, and then we'll finish up. And then is it okay if we, this will be posted, but maybe we could also put this in a document if anybody wants the direct links. We can share that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, fantastic. So maybe I can post that, maybe even the Jamboard when we post the YouTube video so that people can try that when they're watching later, and they can play around with it and make their own self-portrait if they didn't get to do it in real time today.
That sounds great. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, fantastic.
That sounds perfect. And I'm just going to put, here's my email address again, too. If folks have questions about anything we chatted about today. I love talking about museum education and all the fun strategies. And then I get to try them out with my children. So my children are great guinea pigs. So feel free if there are any questions or folks would like to talk through things. I'm always happy to do so.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jenny. This was so much fun.
Thanks, Connie. This was a blast. I really appreciate the invitation and this partnership. So thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll have a lot of kids doing a lot of fun stuff. And I think that will help all of the adults at home too, to, like we talked about a little bit at the beginning, trying to manage those, hopefully we don't get that dreaded, I'm bored, plea when summer starts. They hopefully find lots of things to do, plenty of things to do to have fun. But if we ever need a little inspiration, I think this gives the adults a lot of tools and a way to direct them in some fun activities that they can do, together and get the kids outside.
Yeah, that sounds like a great goal, and use that summer learning, right?
Exactly. All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and log off, and I will post this, the recording. It'll be up online on YouTube within the next couple of days, so usually by Monday. And also anywhere that anyone saw the event posted on Facebook or other places, you'll see the link also posted to the event. So if you look to past events, you'll be able to find the link there. And then you can watch it. Everybody can watch again. And those who weren't able to join us live today can watch it on their own time. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
That sounds great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Bye all.
Thank you. Bye.